In the world of academia, crimes against e-cigs are considered especially heinous. That requires a special breed of investigator, the Special Vaping Unit. These are their stories.
And we are live.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Hello, hello. Yes, contrary to popular, whatever it was, the doohickeys with thingy bobs, what I said on Monday night, that's not happening. It's all gone horribly wrong.
You know, as you get older, don't the weeks pass faster? You not find that?
Well, how much older are you talking about?
Oh, well, older. Inverted commas.
Well, I'm not older till Saturday.
Oh, of course, yes.
I'm 19 then. Lying on my back or standing on my head.
I thought you were a year older than that, but...
What?
Celebrate your 21st then.
No, that doesn't work. 19 does if I'm stood on my head.
Oh, right. Yes.
So I draw you a picture?
What a confession.
What?
19 stood on your head.
Aye. I'd prefer 69, but that's...
Only you would come out with that.
Pardon?
Only you would come out with that.
It's an entirely different kettle of fish. Looks like a peanut, tastes like a prawn. Yes, let's not go there. We have with us tonight the effervescent loveliness and bountiful beautilishness. I'll try that again. We have with us tonight the effervescent loveliness and bountiful beautilishness that is the one and only Sav, and she's there.
Yes,
How are you doing, Cock? All right.
I'm fine, thank you. How's yourself?
I'm all the better for knowing that I've managed to get your volume up from where it was last week.
It's good.
Yes, I like to try and do things like that where I can, you know. Alongside Sav tonight, we have...
volume different?
Pardon?
I didn't notice.
It isn't for us, but it is for the people watching.
Ah.
I watched last week's show back, and the volume, the audio, what's the word it was shite.
Right.
I dropped a right set of bollocks. And Dave, the main reason being, this bit of red wire here, electric string, this black bit connects me short to the sound system because it's a micron phone. Good lad.
What?
Covering your mic when you cough. Mm-hmm. See, it's like drawing the blinds before you take your underpants off. You should really learn to. Well, what happened?
Bloody hell.
What happened last week?
Where does it come from?
Well, if you don't know by now.
Okay. Sorry, I'm
just to
not
explain.
Deliberately
No,
feeding.
you're not. No, definitely. He's not deliberately feeding me anything.
What?
That's Saturday. Gin. Lots of.
Right.
Yes, so where was I? Yes, this red piece of electric string connects the microphone, which is on my shirt. There. Look. That'll upset them all. And what I'd done was, I'd unplugged it, so that was what you heard. Because when I came back in, after getting the extra bottle of gin, I forgot to plug it back in. So I was working off Keith's, everything was working off Keith's mic.
All right.
Which is probably the quietest of the mics because you've got the loudest voice.
Have I?
Yes?
How's that?
I don't know, it's the microphone picks you up better than anybody else.
It's that extra sensitivity, you see it coming through.
What's Durex got to do with it? Are you sensitive or lubricated, are you?
No, it's the voice, the elocution.
Ah, it's the electrocution lessons you had.
Yes,
That's what does it, is it? Yes. They must have cost a lot of money, did the electrocution lessons?
I wouldn't know, I didn't pay for them.
Ah, well, now you see, there's the thing. Seamless links are us, and I'm going to go to, where am I? I'm going to go to voice over iPad, but I can't remember what number it is. That's the one. I want everybody to have a look at this. It's gofundme.com.
Just a minute.
What?
You haven't introduced Matt yet.
No, I'm coming to that in a minute, man.
Oh, sorry, I thought I'd caught you out.
Bugger. Have you ever had the feeling you've lost control? Viewer, dear viewer.
You never lose control.
When the hell did you become director of this show, like?
Oh.
What? Seriously, honestly, truthfully. Right, okay?
Right,
No, it's
no.
fine. It's fine. Alongside the effervescent loveliness and bountiful beautyliciousness that is the one and only Saf, we have the newly coiffed and extremely well sculpted, newly coiffed and extremely well sculpted Matt. Haven't we, Matt?
If we
Hello.
can see him.
There he is. Speak up.
Oh, sorry. You want any words from me, did you? Okay.
Well, yes. It's no good just waving, otherwise it doesn't pick you up. There he sits. There he sits in his fortress of solitude and vapour. He is a Superman.
There I was.
Fortress of solitude and vapour. What did you think I'd said?
Oh, you said there he shits.
No, sits.
Ah, right, okay, sorry.
His own sort of little monastic. Monastic, is that?
Are you saying he's got a priest's hole?
Eh. You know, it's not often I'm stuck for words.
Get away.
You know, all these innuendos.
Innuendo?
It's a good job I'm not sensitive.
But you just said you were earlier on. Sensitor lubricated, I remember saying it.
Well, if I was sensitive, new in 25 years? Yeah.
26?
26, is
26 coming up in November.
it? Right.
No, we're not married. We're not married.
No.
We're just neighbours. We're not in each other's pockets or anything like. Well, he is obviously.
God. Aha.
Right. Let's. You see, that was a seamless link that's now been de-seamlessified. But never mind. Let's go to it. And here it are.
It's your
This is the
choice.
GoFundMe page of Vince Van Heerden in Western Australia, and you will see that one, it hasn't hit the target, and two, you will see that people are starting to donate again, and there is a reason for this. The bottom line on it is, and let's put not too fine a point on it, the lad needs 54,000 Australian dollars yesterday. And he needs it for the simple reason that if he doesn't get it, they're going to take his house off him. Now, I'm going to put this in words of one syllable. 10 Australian dollars is equivalent to 5 UK pounds, which in London is a pint. In Newcastle, it's a half in a lot of the clubs these days, isn't it, Sav? £5 gets you out. It only needs 10,000 people-ish worldwide to shove a fiver into the pot, $10 Australian, and that's going to get Vince out of a hole. And you might think to yourself, well, what the hell's that fat old baldy getting on about now? What's he talking about? Load of shite. Right, Vince Van Heerden, I think, is a vaping hero. He has laid his livelihood on the line in defence of e-cigs in Australia. And he's been shafted by the Australian government and court system, who have decided to invoke a law that was supposed to ban and outlaw the sale of sweeties that were shaped like cigarettes and pipes. And those of a certain age will know exactly what I'm talking about. Candy tabs and chocolate and licorice pipes, right? The law was to get rid of them off the shelves, and fine, fair enough. They've brought that out to say that e-cigs are toy imitations of real cigs. It's been, appealed. He got convicted, it was appealed, it's been appealed again. That's it. There's no further it can go. His lawyers have said it's pointless. And he's got this honking great big fine to get paid. So people, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it on demand, no matter what you're doing, would you please go to the GoFundMe page and donate? And on the GoFundMe page, there is a donate now button. You press the donate now button and it's there. And you enter your donation in Australian dollars. That's the wrong button. So I'm going to put $50 in there and I'm going to put my name, in there. Press the right button, David, that's it. and my last name and my email. And everybody knows what my email is, so I'm not giving everything away, but it's gone off screen. It'll come on screen. It will. If I can get this, there we are. United Kingdom, postal code. Right, you'll forgive me if I cut away from that for just a second. I'm going to do this. What's output for UT, isn't it? Yes. Ha! Right.
Right, I'm going to make my donation while you're doing yours as well. Might as well get it done.
Where's the button you press to say send it? What's being pressed here that I don't want pressed? Continue. So I'm doing this live. And it's going in via PayPal. I'm logging in. And now I'm quite happy. I am quite happy to put this on screen now. It's all there. It's gone. All right. So I've just sent $50. If you have the wherewithal, I would ask you to do the same. But even if you only send $1 or $2, it's going to help. And people will think, well, you know, why? And the bottom line on it is he's a hero. He's stood up for vapers in Australia, and he's carried the whole of the brunt of it. I want to support him. I would like you to support him too. What do you reckon, Keith?
What sort of support's he getting in Australia?
Well,
I didn't mean just financial support. You know, what sort of shindig has this brought about?
well, the New Nicotine Alliance Australia obviously is backing him and doing everything they can to help out, whipping up support. But New Nicotine Alliance Australia is skint, as New Nicotine Alliance over here is. We don't have the money to be able to just go and pay it. And they'll be whipping support up left, right, and centre, and they are, and the, you know, the Australian folks themselves are doing it as well. So, but it deserving, I think.
I mean, what sort of government have Australia got? It's something I don't know much about.
Oh, Australia.
Australian paragraph.
They are, I think they are the Julie Andrews of this world.
All right.
Well, not so much Julie Andrews, Mary Bloody Poppins, the nannies.
Right.
Nanny
The nanny
state. It is so nannying over there. They put adverts out like slip, slap, slop, crip, crap, crop, I don't know what the hell. But they'll tell you, there's adverts on every hour telling you to put sun cream on before you go out of the house. Right? And there's on-the-spot fines for all kinds of stupid things. You know, there's places... I mean, Brownie's in chat. And bad, you know, Brownie's in chat and he'll confirm this. There's places where if you haven't got a hat on, you'll get fined because you're out in the sun. Especially you.
I must admit, I didn't know Australia was that over the top.
It's where Simon Chapman comes from.
Of course.
Radiant's just donated himself.
Ridian's donated himself.
Don't it?
Well, bloody hell. There you go. Yes, as Rob Typhus said, Vicky might not be all right with that because apparently she needs him a lot. Vicky, man. Ridian's missus. Oh, she's very demanding, I've been told.
Is she?
Oh, yes. Yes, very demanding. Sexually active, you know.
Right. Interesting.
It's young love. I'll give it 60 years.
60 years.
Be fed up with each other by then. Leanna Lawless has hit the nail right on the head. Is there a vitamin D deficiency in us? There probably is. Because I keep on telling them to slap all this stuff on. It really is a nanny state. It seriously is. And I mean, you know, I used to think when I was a lad I would love to go there because it was like kind of all Crocodile Dundee and, you know, all right, cover fire, another snag on the barbie. Use another prawn there, mate. And go out and have a few beers with some shells and have a really good time. Apparently not now. You're going out, you don't have a few beers, a few glasses of water with a few ladies. You can't call them Sheila anymore. They could be of any gender. It really doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Is it a left or right-leaning government?
Neither at the minute. They're in the middle of an election.
Oh, right.
And the more libertarian parties appear to be making ground.
Right.
which I think is a good thing. Labour apparently is getting a right clagging over there. But I don't follow Australian politics. I'm having enough trouble dealing with our own, and no, we're not going to talk about it. No. Not going there. They've let everybody down. All of them, of every flavour, have let every last voter down. Set of idiots. That's as much as I'm going to say. Right. There we go. Thank you, people that have donated, that are watching the show live. You've got no idea what that's going to mean to an awful lot of folks. And it makes me feel good inside that you folks have seen fit to do that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm sure Vince will. Those of you that are watching on catch up, there's no need to do it right this very second. But you've got another hour. Get it done. Like I say, even a couple of quid. The cost of a coil that you don't replace for another week. Or alternatively, the cost of a stainless steel clapping coil hand turned by Matt Gerrish. Because he does that, don't you, Matt?
Oh, they're far more valuable than a couple of quid. I rolled them with my own footage.
Yeah, you see, that's dropping the value enormously straight away before you see anything. It's just like worth now. Clapping coil rolled on the thigh of Matt Gerrish. Can you just imagine how that would vape? Everybody be going, by God, this is salty. And the hairs. Yes. Yes, that's it, Bruni. That's the one. Bruni's just said in chat, thank you for that. Kids at school cannot play at lunchtime without a hat. If they haven't got a hat, they've got to sit in the shade and watch the other kids having fun. Doesn't matter whether they've got a full head of hair or not. If they haven't got a hat, they cannot play. That's what Australia's like.
Well, because even that's a bit of an issue in British schools, isn't it?
No.
It is. Sun cream.
What about it?
At break time.
Well, we're going to kick them out today with sun cream on it. Was pissing it down.
No, not today.
No, it's every day. It's any day over there. Doesn't matter what the weather is. If the kid hasn't got a hat, they cannot play.
Right.
You know when we were kids, and this will be the same for Sav and the same for Matt and the same for everybody in chat. When you went to school, in junior school, and you'd forgot your PE kit, what did they make you do? Vest and pants.
Yeah.
Take your shoes and socks off, vest and pants, and you did gym in your vest. I mean, you'd go out and play football like that, but vest and pants in the gym, that was what you did. You exercised in whatever you had.
And then look at the crowds that used to get down to the coast here. When we were young, and there was no such thing as bloody sun cream, was there?
Well, what my mother thought was a good idea, and this is going back so far, to my shame, I had a knitted bathing costume. I thought you'd laugh.
Did she knit?
Me grandma had knitted.
Oh,
Me mum had asked me grandma to knit us a pair of bathers.
Knitted or crocheted?
Knitted.
Oh, good job, yes.
Then, anybody that's had an older relative that's worked down the pit will have had that nylon parachute cord stuff, because they used it down the pit for everything. So that was the bit that went round me waist and tied in the bow. And it's just as bloody well, because when you went in the sea with your knitted trunks on, they went from that deep, from waistband to crotch, to that deep,
yes.
From waistband to crotch, and they were flapping about like God knows what. But my mother's great idea when we had these, apparently the best thing you could have was olive oil and vinegar mixed.
All right.
This is great, she says. This is great. This will stop you from burning. It's called vinaigrette.
Vinaigrette.
Vinaigrette. It's called vinaigrette. And I didn't have the heart to tell her years and years and years later when I'd been to this flash restaurant where you got oil and vinegar mixed called vinaigrette to put on your salad.
Yes.
Didn't have the heart to tell her it was salad dressing, so I took her to the restaurant myself.
Right.
And we sat down. Would you like a dressing? I said, yes, I'll have some of that vinaigrette, please. And he brought it out, and my mum just looked at us, and I just looked at her, and you could see the realisation suddenly came. And I just said, enjoy your salad, Mum. Because I was a good son.
Yes, quite.
Yes. Yes. Leanna Lawless has said, don't we all have family in Oz? All of us. No, there's no convicts in my family. Is there any in yours?
No.
No. Yes, Leanna Lawless remembers a knitted swimsuit. Please, Lee, we'll love you dearly, but for God's sake, don't send any photos. You'll break the internet. We can't have that. I'm not showing you. I am. Yes. Wraith Tech's running hidden. Well, he's all right. Yeah, we used to go to Scarborough.
And then
Scarborough
that used
does.
to be followed with calamine lotion, didn't
Palam-
it? Where
pa-
you burnt.
Palamine lotion. We called it palamine lotion.
Yes.
If you had the red bits in the blisters, you put that stuff on.
That's
Stung
right.
like buggery when it went on because your mum had kept it in the fridge. Because everything got
And
kept
it
in
used
the
to
fridge.
dry like chalk.
It did, yes.
Mm.
And then my mother used to try and pick it off like it was scabs.
Yes.
Young folks these days have got no bloody clue.
They haven't, have
Not a clue. Especially the ones in Australia. They're wrapped in bubble wrap and cling film and God knows. They should wrap the heads of some of the politicians over there in cling film. But never mind. Leanna Lawless, thankfully, it's all right, Matt. She's got no pics. She was very little. Nobody took any pictures of her in her knitted swimsuit. You're all right. You're safe. She's not going to send you them. She's going to send them to Keith instead.
Knitted swim. No, I never had a knitted one.
Oh, we'll get one. So I'll get Jill to knit you one.
Get
Get Jill to knit you one for next Thursday. You can come on in a knitted swimsuit.
Like the dishcloths.
Aye, knitted swimsuit, and but not in cotton. Cotton won't expand, but the wool will. It'll drop like a good one. It'll be absolutely crackers. Yes, Wraith Tech, Barbados, the metropolis of the north. It's exactly what it is. I used to go there with me knitted bathers on in the days before the nannies were invented.
I bet there's not many men about who had as a gift from a lady a crocheted dishcloth.
I don't quite know what to make of that, Keith.
No, I bet you don't.
I shall
even got you stuck for words.
I shall
Right.
put this to our audience of many millions, ladies and gentlemen. Well, gentlemen in this case. If any of you, whatever, have been gifted a crocheted cotton dishcloth by a lady, please do make yourself known in our live chat. Obviously, if it's on demand,
By
you're
a
wasting your
dear
time.
female friend.
By
of many years.
A female dear friend, female dear female what you been
Dear female friend.
adore.
No. Dear D-E-A-R.
Oh right, you mean Jill?
Yes.
Oh, I should crochets them, I.
Yes.
They make great snot rags. Just thought I'd tell you. Shall we go on? Well, we're talking about Australia, and
Yeah, it was a nice thing, and all you do is debase it.
that's me job.
Right, if you say so.
I'm all about debase. About debase.
God.
Sav got that. Look, she got it. She got it. I'm all about debase. About debase. While we're talking about Australia, Simon
We should have some
Chapman.
more substance, yes.
Pardon?
Rather than digression.
More substance. Oh,
yes.
right, I've got some substance in here. It's nice. Gin is the substance. Lemonade is the diluent, as you might say. I can see the reflection of what Sav's looking at in her glasses now. Stop watching porn.
I think Sav should try and bring you under some control.
Go on, Sav. Give it a...
Clearly I'm failing.
You think I've got any control over him? Nah, he's on his own.
Well,
Wind him up and let him go.
Yes.
I'm trying to guide this show through a particular path.
Path?
No, path.
Right.
Not a path. I'm not posh. Path.
Guided through a particular path.
Yes. Shall I be absolutely honest with
No,
everybody?
I mean, that sort of has ecclesiastical undertones, doesn't it?
I do
You
not
said-
wish to know about a vicar's pants.
Guided through a path, yes.
A particular path.
Yes, a particular path.
What I'm going for, what I was going for is seamless links through various different topics.
Seamless links.
Seamless links through various different topics. Look, she's enwrapped, she is. I'm going for seamless links through various topics to try and get from A to Z in an allotted time. And while that may involve the odd meander off to one and red, the letters of the alphabet will fall concurrently, consecutively,
Well, if
and
that
concomitantly.
if that's seamless, it seems to me almost cavernous.
Well, it was going to be seamless if you hadn't interrupted us.
It's my fault. I might have known.
Because we were talking about Australia,
Yes.
which is where Simon Chapman lives.
You
And
never-
in September, he's coming to the UK.
Oh, right.
Did you see how the seamlessness of it all worked? And this is it. He's going to the Royal Society of Medicine, it says here, to speak on Friday the 16th of September in, the year of our Lord, since you brought the ecclesiastical thing up, 2016, winning the end game against tobacco. Now, this is a tobacco control thing, and it says about this event, and I want everybody to see this and read it and understand it, because it's shite. The purpose of this meeting is to explore the strategies that will enable the countries of the United Kingdom to become tobacco free. It will look at the opportunities that arise from legislation, health education, treatments supporting smoking cessation, and the contribution of advocacy. The meeting will also review the strategies being used by the tobacco industry to preserve their sales, obstruct health promotion efforts, and to recruit new smokers in the UK and in developing countries. The participants will learn of the contribution that can be made, I think they mean, by smoking cessation services, the contribution, if any, that e-cigarettes might make, and the strategic steps needed to make tobacco-free countries a reality. Right? The next bit is done in a cod Australian accent, because I think it needs to be. Professor Simon Chapman, world-leading anti-tobacco advocate, will be attending and speaking on his professional lifetime spent in public health advocacy, as well as giving a keynote speech on the plain packaging pandemic. Is the last paragraph of that in Cod Aussie. Now, here is their agenda, right? Now, I'll just go to our camera, right? Contribution that e-cigs might make. Remember, that was mentioned. Here's their agenda. Registration, tea and coffee. 45 bloody minutes they get. 45 minutes to get in, get a cup of coffee and get their asses parked, and then listen to Professor Simon Chapman, Emeritus Professor in the School of Public Health, University of Sydney, talking about a sneeze in one country causes international pneumonia tomorrow, explaining the plain packaging pandemic. Right?
Right.
Because he thinks the whole world's going to go into plain packaging. And not just for fags, but for other things that he doesn't like. Because he's a wanker. At 11:15, the European dimension, prospects for the EU and WHO Euro in action on tobacco. And that is given by Professor Martin McKay, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, otherwise known as friends as Bubblegum. The man himself, he'll be there speaking through his arse, as he usually does, because that's what he is, tosser of the first water. At 11:45, the match winner, the future of advocacy and campaigning, which is Ms. Deborah Arnott, Chief Executive, Action on Smoking and Health. Thus far, I'm not optimistic about anything being said about e-cigs. That's nice. They're on a panel. There'll be a panel discussion and questions, and then at 12:45 it's lunch. 1:30 they reconvene. So they're only getting 45 minutes for lunch. Strange that. 45 minutes for a coffee, 45 minutes for lunch. They want kicking. Big Tobacco, the industry that never sleeps. Professor Anna Gilmore at the University of Bath. I've spoken with her. She quite likes e-cigs apparently. She's bought them for people. Somebody needs to call her out on that at this thing. Then 2:00, the quitting game, speaker to be confirmed. God only knows who that'll be. No idea. I'm putting my money on Robert West. 2:30 p.m. What more can the parliaments and assemblies of the UK do? Again, that's going to be confirmed. That's if there's any bloody politicians left by then, because they're starting to kill each other now, I understand.
Could you not go along?
Oh, do you think they'd let me in?
Wow.
Not a hope. 320 years well spent, a reflection on professional lifetime spent in public health advocacy, Simon Chapman, and then it's closed off by Gabriel Scully, who was the meeting organiser and visiting professor, University West of England.
Gabriel Scully.
I'll tell you what, that's a cast of characters. Isn't that a cast of characters? I know what programme I'd like to see them in. Game of Thrones. Preferably the last episode.
So where's
Preferably in the septum.
So where's that at?
That. Well, where is it? It's getting accredited. It'll tell you where it is in a minute. I will tell you. I don't know.
Ah.
It's at the Royal Society of Medicine, 1 Wimpole Street, London.
All right.
Now, it's not huge, because I've been there. I went there for a meeting on e-cigs 5 years ago.
Right.
5 years?
Yeah, it will be.
Yes, 5 years ago I went there. This is before David Nutt did his stuff, before anybody did anything, and I was asked to go down and could I advise them all. So
well, maybe you should go to that and try and sneak in.
In September. Friday the 16th of September. Doesn't say what time it does say what time it starts. 9:30. I could get the early train down. What do you reckon, Sav? Shall we go and crash it?
Could be fun, couldn't it?
Shall we register it? Apparently it's not that expensive. Early bird fees are available until Wednesday the 20th of July. £25 for RSM members and £35 for non-members. What do you reckon?
That could well be fun.
Couldn't it just? If we take 10 of us
10.
and we can just sit there and vape at them. And when Chapman comes on, it'd be waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, will come waltzing Matilda with me.
So what's he coming across for?
Money. He's being paid to come and spout his gob off. Because he'll not be paying for himself. Will he?
I wouldn't have thought so.
It gets him brought across to the UK. Then he's going to wander through London and say he never saw anybody vaping. So on the 26th of September, people, right, you don't even have to go, because we know what they're going to say. I think we need to get a few folks down in London, outside 1 Wimpole Street, from about 8 o'clock, from about 8 o'clock. And we can, as people are going in, we can just stand in 2 lines, so they've got to go past us, and we can blow an arch of vape. And to make it even more interesting, right, you know there's various different classes of e-juice, flavours.
Yeah.
So you could start with a tobacco flavour as the first one, then a dessert, then a cake, then a fruit, then a tobacco, dessert, cake, fruit, milk, whatever it happens to be. We'd do that. So, you know, 20 people, all these different flavours. And as people go in, we just do that. Do these little arches of vapour as people
Or you
walk
could
in.
look for people who were keen vapors who live within reasonable travelling distance of Wimpole Street.
As in London, you mean?
Yes.
There must be millions down there.
Well,
by
there
now.
you are. And there'll be some who come on chat.
Bound to. Bound to.
Get a group of them to go.
Yes, John Summers, I did say waltzing. Seriously, I did say waltzing. But yeah, if you're in London around about Friday the 16th of September and you've got nothing else to do on the morning, go along and just stand outside 1 Wimpole Street and have a vape. I would. I might. And we'll think about getting tickets. Me and Sav can go down.
Wimpole Street? What's that famous for again?
Wimpole Street.
Yes.
It's where, what's his name, had Rumpole of the Bailey had his office there, didn't he? It's also where the Royal Society of Medicine is.
Well, yes.
So it'll have been featured in a lot of Conan Doyle stuff.
Is it Conan Doyle stuff?
Yes, it'll be
Right.
Conan Doyle stuff. It's organised by the Epidemiology and Public Health section, don't you know?
It would be.
Well, of course it would. Yes. So there you are. Like I say, I know it's a lot of notice. 'Tis a lot of notice, but you know, hey, get a bus trip up. Or here's the great thing: if we all get in quick enough, right, buy all the tickets out, so nobody else can get in, and then McKay and Chapman and Scully and Arnott, there's them four, and us. How does them apples stack up? Could you go for that? I could. Ha! Yes. What? Look at Keith's face.
I
Considering.
can't understand why this guy should come all the way from bloody Australia when there's plenty of people here who would sing the same tune as he's going to sing.
Ah! But is there? I don't think there is anymore.
Right.
There's only McKay, and he's already on there. I'm not really surprised that Arnott's there. She's Ash, so she would have to be there. She couldn't not. Otherwise, she's going to get rotten eggs thrown at her by that lot. But, Matt, can you think of anybody that would do a Chapman from the UK at the minute? Leave Cape well out of it, because he's actually too reasonable.
I can't.
Well, that's progress then, isn't it?
It is. That's my point. Sav, can you?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Chatty Poos? Chat? Can you think of anybody in the UK that could, with conviction, do Chapman's idiocy and standing up and crapping on the way he does? Because I don't think there's anybody in the UK outside of the people that are on that thing that could do what Chapman does. I don't think anybody would want to be seen as being a disingenuous, lying, toe-rag shithead. I'll stop there because the other words that were coming into my mind were really, really bad. Fuckwit was amongst them.
Well, that's positive.
Drakeford! Drakeford!
Yeah,
Drakeford.
right, I was about to say, yeah.
Well done, Brian Coe, Drakeford. That was what? Sorry, go on, Keith, I'm sorry.
No, all I'm saying is, does that not show the progress that's been made in very recent years on the whole issue?
Well, this was my point. I mean, if they've had to drag him across from Australia, if they're that bloody desperate, and it does kind of look as though that's what it is, and we've been seeing desperation, the straw clutching going on for donkey's ages. If they've got to bring somebody like that over in order to bolster their own little echo chamber sentiments, then yeah, I think we're on the ascendancy.
But you see,
here.
what is he
winning.
offering that's new?
He's probably written a new verse for Waltz and Matilda, or maybe his band's got a new single out. I don't know. Nothing new in terms of e-cigs, and nothing new in terms of tobacco control, because they're just rehearsing the same old bloody arguments time after time. All they're bothered about is putting the tobacco industry out of business, and yet their very actions give the tobacco industry more business. There's a case in point. Now, I cannot speak about this in precise and definite terms. So I'm going to speak generally about research studies that might be happening all over the country, indeed all over the world, where apparently e-cigs are going to be looked at for effects that they might be having on this, that and the other thing, all kinds of stuff. And the people that sign off on all of this, there's things like ethics committees, there's things like oversight committees, so all of these researchers, they're not allowed to just start. They've got to write a whole screed of stuff, and that's got to be submitted to this committee of people that are supposed to know stuff, and they read through all this stuff, and then at the end they say yes you can do it, no you can't. They suggest any alterations that might need to be made, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, although they do say that it was a committee that sat down to design a horse and they ended up with a camel because it was designed by committee, right? Or was it a giraffe? Well, either way. So what's happening is they want documents, right? These committees all want documents, that thick of documents. They just want documents, so that they can look at that and go, well, you see, it says here, blah, 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 and there are assurances that, blah, 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 blah. And on page 92, it says that blah, 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 So we can be absolutely guaranteed that blah, 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 because it's all on paper, it's written down. Which means that currently the prime contender for hardware and e-juice to be used in clinical studies of e-cigs comes from, guess. Guess.
The tobacco industry.
Yes, a specific make, Vape. Because they've got all the paperwork, right?
Right.
So something's going to have to change. So there, I just thought I'd bring that to everybody's notice. So, right, here's a challenge for vendors. You're doing paperwork now anyway. So why don't you put together a dossier of your beginner kits, your starter kits, things like the AIO from Joytech, things like the T18, what's its first name? The Anakin. Sab's sitting there blank as well.
Completely.
She's old before our time. Somebody will come up. But yes, the Anakin T18. It's gone. I'm feeling old.
I mean, have you been in our corner shop in the last week or so?
No.
Right.
I'm busy.
As you know, you go in, there's the counter, then you've got directly in front of you, as you face whoever's serving you, the flaps with all the cigarettes underneath.
Don't mention flaps, Keith. The chat will go wild.
Right. All the flaps are being removed, and on the shelves behind where the flaps were are vast ranges of e-juice, e-liquid.
Where the fags were?
Yes. On about 4 shelves.
Aye.
And the cigarettes are now in a cupboard, a wooden cupboard, hidden from the customer next to the till. And I thought, well, there's a message there.
Is he selling that for you? Fags?
Well, I don't know. But all the space that was devoted to the cigarettes are now rows of different e-juices.
Now,
And I thought there was a...
so
It's interesting, that.
well, I know you go up there just about every day. So can you bring to mind any of the makes? We know the Vivid juice is there, but have they got the Vibe stuff as well?
Yes.
And the blue? BLU blue.
I don't recollect seeing that.
Well, we'll have to go up.
It's worth going up and just having a look, because it's a significant display. Let's put it that way.
I'm going to take a bloody camera up. Never mind, go up and have a look. You and I will go up next week.
Right.
We'll take a camera. I'll give you a stick mic and you can interview Jai.
Now, why Jai's done that, I don't know.
Because he's making money.
Well, yes, but I thought there was a message there.
He's
a
making money.
significance
Well,
to that.
I mean, look, we've said this for donkey's ages, haven't we? We've said that more and more people are taking up e-cigs and more people are switching. Now, funnily enough, you having brought that up, there's been loads of news items lately about a certain piece of studying that Dr. Konstantinos Farsalinos has been doing. And it's been picked up all over the place. And here is just one example of that. And that would be voiceover is number 3. Yes, it is. Right. EU survey finds e-cigarettes helped 15 million smokers quit or cut back. A large, and just in case anybody was wondering, yes, that is what's known as a seamless link. We got there from Jai's into this. A large survey of Europeans indicates that more than 6 million have quit smoking with the help of e-cigarettes, while more than 9 million have cut back, according to a study recently published by the journal Addiction. These are probably the highest rates of smoking cessation and reduction ever observed in such a large population study, says the lead researcher Konstantinos Farsalinos, a cardiologist at the Onassis Cardiac Surgery Centre in Athens. The European Union data shows that the use of electronic cigarettes seems to have a positive impact on public health for 2 main reasons. 1. High smoking cessation and reduction rates are observed, and 2. Electronic cigarette use is largely confined to smokers, current and former, with minimal use by non-smokers. I'll pull out of that one. That's what she said. and we'll actually go to the study itself. And here it is in all its glory. All of the conflicts and declarations of what do you call it, interest are there. And the aim was to assess the prevalence of electronic cigarette use, reported changes in smoking status due to e-cigarette use, and correlates of e-cigarette use in the European Union member states in 2014. So bear in mind, this is 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago. It's a cross-sectional survey of EU citizens representative of the population, Special Eurobarometer 429. Let me explain a little bit about that. Konstantinos did not go and do all the interviews himself. This is not Konstantinos's data.
Right.
This is official data collected by the EU.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
They can't point at it and go, those figures aren't right, because they collected the figures. They can't point at it and say, but you're biased, so you've worded the questions wrong, because they collected the figures. They can't point at it and say, no, that's not a representative sample, because they collected the figures. In other words, this is official data, which officially has no official bias, which officially is officially representative of the official people officially in the EU.
And it's got their name stamped all over
It's
it.
got the EU stamped all over it. And on this occasion, I'm quite glad it has, because this is how it all pans out. So the measurements are based on 27,460 EU citizens aged greater than or equal to 15 years, after excluding those who responded do not know to the questions about smoking status and e-cigarette use. I don't know how anybody can say, when asked, do you smoke or do you use an e-cigarette? I don't know. How does that work?
Yes.
How do you not know? Do you spit or do you swallow? I don't know. Why? Because I've never done either. Fine. Do you smoke or do you use an e-cigarette? I don't know. Why? Because I've never done either. Right, you're a non-smoker then, you prat. Do you me? Ha! Onward. Measurements. Somebody said something.
It's just me giggling.
At what? What got there late?
Most of it.
Descriptive analysis at 95% confidence interval of e-cigarette use prevalence, current use, and past experimentation according to smoking status, self-reported changes in smoking status according to patterns of e-cigarette use, and logistic regression analysis to examine correlates of e-cigarette use, especially socio-demographic factors and smoking status. You know what that means?
No.
It means classifying people as to whether they use e-cigs, whether they smoked. If they smoked, have they switched? Are they fully switched, or are they on the journey in dual users, basically? So, ever e-cigarette use was reported by 31.1% of current smokers, 10.8% of former smokers, and 2.3% of never smokers. All right?
Right.
That's ever use. They could just have had a drag. Just a drag, or I was going to say a whole one, but you know what I mean. 5 or 6 drags, or it could be that they're still using, whatever. Past experimentation at 7.2% was more common than current and past use. In other words, more people have tried but not carried on than have carried on or who have used and quit altogether. You with us?
Yes.
Right. Extrapolated to the whole population, and this is a representative sample, about 48.5 million EU citizens were ever e-cigarette users, with 76.8% of them using nicotine-containing e-cigarettes. Initiation with e-cigarettes, this is nicotine initiation, was reported by 0.8% of participants who reported ever use of any tobacco-related product. only 1.3% of never smokers used nicotine-containing e-cigarettes, with 0.09% reporting daily nicotine use. 0.09% reporting daily nicotine use. You might as well say it's not happening.
Yeah.
You might as well say, and it's in fact it's true to say, that people have taken up e-cigs using non-nicotine, zero nicotine, nicotine-free juice, and only 0.09%, it's tiny weeny, are using nicotine. So it's not a problem at all in anybody's universe. Onward. Smoking cessation due to e-cigarette use was reported by 35.1% of current e-cigarette users, while a further 32.2% reported smoking reduction. An estimated 6.1 and 9.2 million EU citizens had quit and reduced smoking with the use of e-cigarettes. So that's 6.1 people in the EU are fully switched and exploring the pleasure principle. I'll put this in the right bloody words because he doesn't know them. 6.1 million people are fully switched and exploring the pleasure principle, and 9.2 million people are on a journey to being fully switched and just haven't had their ooh moment yet, but are moving towards it. That's what it's saying. Being current or former smokers were the strongest correlates of ever e-cigarette use. The conclusions are that e-cigarette use in the European Union appears to be largely confined to current or former smokers, while current use and nicotine use by people who have never smoked is rare. Over 30% of current e-cigarette users polled reported smoking cessation and reduction. That's huge. That's enormous. That is proper science. And if anybody now can turn round and with their hand on their heart say, we just don't know if these things help people not to smoke, shove that under their noses and tell them if they don't understand it and can't read it, they've got to go back to the university at which they got their degree and doctorate and demand their money back because patently they weren't taught correctly. That's what they should do. And first in the queue should be Professor Simon Chapman. Second in the queue should be Professor Stan Glantz. Third in the queue should be Martin McKee with Gabriel. In fact, we could just get the representatives of the universities from which they're qualified to go down on the 16th of September to 1 Wimpole Street and take their bloody degrees off them because patently they don't deserve them when there's figures like that there. And that's what I think they've got to recognise. Sav, is chat saying anything? Because I think there might be.
Yeah, I mean, chat are wholeheartedly supporting you. I mean, there's some talk of salt and vinegar, but there's been a lot of people saying sort of how the data is extrapolated into being reliable in real life figures and stuff like that. And the numbers, I think there was someone worked out if they were talking about that percentage of the sample of 27,000 people, it would work out at roughly about 24 people out of those 27,000 that were questioned.
Or the 0.09,
Yeah.
0.09.
And you think, yeah, when you actually look at it and the figures are there, how can anyone question it? How can they?
Well, this is exactly the point, isn't it? It's exactly the point. You know, when you're looking at it, and yeah, that'd be right, but
So,
24 people out of 27,000. I mean, how big is 27,000? Not being a sports person, but how many people, Keith, do you normally get at one of them there, what do you call them, football matches? How many's in a stadium?
well, if you look at Sunderland and Newcastle...
yeah, talk about clubs people have heard of.
Well, the big clubs double that almost.
So it's half a football stadium of people.
Yes.
Like Manchester
In the big clubs.
Manchester
yes.
United and
Yes.
Horse and Hull
Yes.
and Chelsea and places
Yes.
like that. So it's half a football stadium of people. Picture that. And out of all of them, 24, just 24. I mean, if I'll tell you now, if you were given their pictures and you had to pick them out, you wouldn't find them.
So what would your comment be on this EU connection?
What do you mean? The EU connection? Explain. I'm not with you.
Well, the involvement of the EU in this.
Well, the involvement is they collected the data.
Yes. What's the significance of that, do you think?
The significance of that is nobody can argue with it. As I said
Right.
right at the start of this little piece, it's been collected by people who are so bureaucratic they don't know how not to kind of, they've got this Germanic thing about accuracy,
Yes.
right? So it's very much a case of all of the questions will have been asked and answered. And they'll have been properly qualified and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
The data is unimpeachable data because it's been done by Eurobarometer. It's official data. It's not like you and I have been stood at the corner of the Metro Centre going, "Excuse me, can I just borrow you for a second, please? Do you smoke? Do you vape? What do you vape? Do you not vape? Do you spit or do you swallow?" You know, it's not. This is done officially through officialdom by the very people who, frankly, fucked us over with the TPD.
Yeah,
That's
my point.
That's the
you
point.
see. Yes.
And they've got all this data,
Yes.
and this is what the data says, and that's going to get thrown back at them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, thrown back at them in huge
That's what
big
I wanted
letters.
to hear you say. You see,
God,
the
yes.
significance of that
Oh yes.
in terms of, the EU.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm telling you what, I don't care who gets what. That Article 50 bloody letter doesn't get sent until I've been across and kicked Juncker's arse with this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know?
That's my point.
I mean, it turns around and says, look, before you brought your stupid, piss-arsed fuckwittery in with the TPD, this is what has happened. 6.1 million people fully switched, no longer smoking, definitely not doing anything at all with lit tobacco, and that's before you put your bloody oar in. And I'd love to see it in 2 years' time after the TPD's probably properly bitten and see what it is then.
So how new is that information?
Brand new. That's since Warsaw.
Right. So
He told us, Konstantinos told me this was coming out in Warsaw.
Right.
He says, you're going to be excited by it. And then Jacques Louezek, who is also an author on this,
right.
told me exactly the same thing. And seriously, the pair of them were dancing a
So
jig.
there's no reaction or comment yet.
What, from Europe?
Yeah.
No, they're too busy taking the piss out of us. We're not going there.
Well, that's right.
No. There will be.
It'd be interesting to hear.
Oh, we won't hear it.
Well, to pick up then.
Well, we'll do that. Sav, do you fancy going to Brussels?
We are.
We've done it before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Can do it again, can't we?
Quite like Brussels. They do nice trips.
Pancakes, the waffles. I like the waffles.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mean to bring the waffles up, but I did. I brought the waffles up.
Waffles.
Yeah.
Waffles are one of these things, Keith, that and Belgian waffles particularly, are one of these things that can increase the hedonic reaction of the body.
Right.
If you understand what that is, the hedonic reaction of the body, and it's quite important that that hedonic reactions, or the pleasure principle, as you might say, is adhered to. I think, at any rate. What? Oh, come on. You bugger, you get a seamless link together and then the bloody thing falls over on you. Right. There we go.
We've heard a lot in this conference, a lot of very useful, very interesting stuff about harm reduction.
Yeah.
But that's only one side of the picture. That there's a reason that people smoke, and that's because of pleasure.
Yeah.
And actually there's a reason that many people vape with all those reduced harm effects, but would like to continue. What would you think about the pleasure principle in this?
I think it's absolutely central to it. Basically, the way I look at this is that what vapors are doing is finding a different way of smoking. They're trying to get all of the things that they like out of smoking, most of the things that they don't like, plus some extra things to do with personalization, the geekiness of it, the fun and games with the social media side of it, and almost a tobacco harm reduction is like a sort of collateral benefit that flows from that change of behaviour. It's not even necessarily the main purpose, it's a factor.
Yeah.
You know, people obviously don't want to get cancer or heart disease, but they're only doing that because they think they can get more fun and more interest and more pleasure from vaping in a different way. And using nicotine in a different way, and it's not just pleasure. It's also maybe people feel better off. It doesn't cost them so much. Maybe they shed the stigma that comes with smoking, and they feel re-socialized and part of a community again. It's not just like the serious risks like cancer and heart disease. It's also feeling a better well-being, feeling a bit fitter, not getting out of breath, running up and down the stairs, not having your grandchildren nagging you. There's a whole wide range of benefits, and tobacco harm reduction hardly begins to capture what the full experience is really about. It's the full experience that counts. The harm reduction benefits just follow on from that.
Yeah, as David Dawn puts it, all of the pleasure and none of the death.
Yeah, that's right. So everything you like, a few more things that you also like, plus none of the things you don't like. What's not to like?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Clive.
The train now standing on platforms 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 is the 14, 15 that's coming sideways. Sorry about that. I always forget. It's murder, so it is. That was quite interesting because I had no way of seeing what was going on there. The seamless link went completely shit-faced, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes, but that was interesting. That was Clive talking about the pleasure. A lot of people were talking about the pleasure principle in Warsaw. Can't understand why. Can you understand why, Sav?
Wouldn't have a clue why, no.
Nah. Matt, do you know why?
Aside from it being a rather splendid album by Gary Newman, I can't possibly think why.
Yes, that had not escaped my notice either. Pleasure principle is the reason that e-cigs work.
Well, yeah.
If you're not enjoying them, you're not going to use them. And if you find that you enjoy an e-cig more than you do a smoked lit tobacco fag, then what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters. Don't think that works the same, do you?
Ghostbusters.
No, not at all. Did I mention last week? I think I did, and I probably mentioned on Monday as well, that as a body, you should go and follow John Derricott on YouTube. That's Jon, John as in Jonathan, Derricott, DERRICOTT, John Derricott. He's the official videographer for GFN and has filmed, as we call it up here, filmed everything to do with GFN. And there's some cracking stuff. There's even footage of Deborah Arnott getting the dressing down from the stage. And there might be even more than that yet to come. We do not as yet know. And I'm going to play a little bit more in from John. In fact, I'm going to do it now while this thing's working properly. Otherwise, it's going to go to hell in a handcart. I can see it coming. This would be... This would be Lynn Dawkins talking about compensatory puffing behaviour in e-cigarette users, blood nicotine delivery and subjective effects. And this is why, again, this is if you're having conversations with your MPs, MEPs, because yes, we've still got them, and any other representatives, MSPs, AMs, and whatever they're called anywhere in the world, this is one of the videos that you need to play to them so that they can see why a limit of 20 milligram is about as much use as a chocolate condom. Yeah, we'll go with that. Why not? Whoops.
Looking at self-titration and compensatory puffing behaviour in electronic cigarette users who were given a high and a low nicotine concentration e-liquid. So these are my disclosures. Okay, so I firstly just want to talk a little bit about self-titration in tobacco smokers. And this is what really was the basis for our work. So this idea of self-titration has been around in tobacco smokers since around the 1970s. And the idea here is that smokers can adjust their nicotine intake to maintain an optimal level for them, even though they may smoke cigarettes containing higher or lower levels of nicotine. And of particular interest to us was whether smokers changed the way that they smoke when switching to a lower nicotine yield cigarette. And a review of the literature in 2014 concluded that smokers can achieve approximately 60 to 80% of their ordinary nicotine intake when they switch to a lower nicotine yield cigarette. And this happens by compensatory puffing behaviour, so mainly through taking longer, harder drags and by taking more frequent puffs. And you might expect then that if smokers are taking more puffs and taking in a greater volume of smoke when they switch to a lower nicotine yield cigarette, that this might increase harms. And actually the evidence on this is mixed. We know certainly that reducing to a lower nicotine containing cigarette doesn't reduce harms. There's some evidence perhaps it may increase harm. So that was really the basis for our work in vapors. And of course vapors will tell us that when they switch to using a lower nicotine concentration e-liquid that they will increase the amount of liquid they consume. And it was also suggested to us that vapors may be able to self-titrate as well. After we did this pharmacokinetic study a couple of years ago, this was 2012 now. So in this study, we had 14 experienced e-cigarette users who all used a standard cartomizer type electronic cigarette containing 18 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine. And they all took 10 puffs, and then we allowed them to use ad-lib for the next 60 minutes. And what was of considerable interest to us here was the marked individual variation. And this is shown here in this slide. So it's not captured by the mean, but here you can see at that 10-minute point, when everybody has just had 10 puffs within a 5-minute period, we're seeing some people who are barely getting kind of 2 nanograms per milliliter, nicotine per milliliter of blood, and others are getting very, very rapid nicotine intake, equivalent to the 15 to 30 nanograms per milliliter that you see in tobacco smokers. So this set the stage for our next study looking at compensatory puffing behaviours. And of course, the Article 20 of the Tobacco Products Directive was another impetus for our study. So I'm sure you're all very well aware of this directive that came into effect last month. So nicotine concentrations exceeding 20 milligrams per milliliter will no longer be allowed in the EU. And this will affect approximately 200,000 vapers, according to the ASH survey of vapers published this year. So a substantial minority, and in addition to those, other researchers suggested that many more people need to use a high level of nicotine concentration in order to transition over to vaping, to allow them to stop smoking completely. So we were interested then, because these people using above the TPD cutoff, of course, will be obliged to switch to a lower nicotine concentration e-liquid. So we were interested in understanding to what extent can users compensate for that lower nicotine strength by altering the way they puff? That's not my water, never mind. So our aims, my water there. So our aims were to determine the extent to which e-cigarette users, the extent to which e-cigarette users self-titrate by compensating, by changing their puffing patterns when they're given a lower nicotine concentration e-liquid. And we were also interested in the subjective effects, whether this affected urge to smoke, withdrawal symptoms, positive and negative effects, and of course whether there was a difference in blood nicotine concentrations in the two conditions that we used. So we had 11 male regular e-cigarette users. They were all all ex-smokers who had been using e-cigarettes daily for at least 3 months, and they were all used to using a higher nicotine concentration e-liquid above the TPD cutoff. We used the eVic Supreme from Joytech because not only does it have a puff counter, but it has the downloadable software that allow us to look at puff duration and number of puffs over an ad-lib vaping period. And the Aspire tank from Nautilus, we used a standard 1.8 ohms with 8.5 watts. Our e-liquid was chosen based on the 5 most popular brands in the country at the time, and we chose one of these at random, and the criteria was that they had to be available in a high 24 and a low 6 milligram per milliliter nicotine concentration. And the study was conducted double-blind and counterbalance. So here's our procedure. We started with pre-screening our participants. We wanted to ensure that they were all familiar with using the higher strength nicotine, so we had a salivary coating cutoff for inclusion. Our participants then abstained overnight for 10 to 12 hours and then provided a baseline blood sample, and they also rated their current urge to vape and their withdrawal symptoms. They then continued with a 60-minute ad-lib puffing period, and we took blood at 10, 30 and 60 minutes, and at those time points participants also rated urge to vape, withdrawal symptoms, and at the end they rated their positive and negative symptoms on a visual analog scale, which was converted to a percentage rate. And then the puffing topography, the puff number, puff duration, was collected using the eVic, and we recorded the amount of liquid consumed as well. So here are our data. These are the puffing topography data. The blue columns are the high condition, the red columns are the low nicotine concentration condition. And you can see the top left, for mean puff number, participants increased their number of puffs from 48 to about 72. The mean puff duration also was increased in the low condition from 3.8 to just over 5 seconds. And that resulted in a greater consumption of e-liquid. So participants doubled the amount of e-liquid they consumed from half a mil to just over 1 milliliter. So clear evidence of compensatory puffing behaviour here. So what about blood nicotine delivery? So again, low is red, low is red, yeah, blue is high. So the striking thing here from this graph is the blue line. So under the high nicotine condition, you can see a rapid increase and very high levels of blood nicotine delivery. Our mean was about 34 nanograms per milliliter. This is typical of cigarette smoking, which is between 15 and 30 nanograms per milliliter at the 10-minute point. But huge individual variation around this, with some only reaching 2 and others reaching over 100. So that was quite striking. In the low nicotine condition, again, we had fairly good nicotine delivery, reaching about 9 nanograms per milliliter, increasing to about 22 at the end of the 60-minute period. But you can also see clearly from this that blood nicotine levels are significantly higher in the high condition. So although participants engaged in compensatory puffing, their levels were still significantly higher. Not as high as you would expect from the difference in the nicotine in the concentration. The difference in the nicotine concentration was only about a quarter of that from the high, but the blood nicotine levels didn't differ as much as that. So some evidence that the compensatory puffing was effective for blood nicotine delivery. And these slides just show the relationship between the puffing topography variables on the x-axis and the nicotine in blood on the y-axis. And you can see a clear relationship for all variables. So for puff number, a high correlation between blood nicotine and the number of puffs taken, slightly lower for puff duration, and overall higher for the high nicotine rather than the low nicotine condition. But again, clear evidence that puffing topography variables are closely related to blood nicotine delivery. What happens to subjective effects? Well, even though we had a very clear difference in blood nicotine delivery between the high and low conditions, the magnitude of the reduction in self-reported urge to vape and withdrawal symptoms was very similar. So it seems that compensatory puffing, although we have a difference in blood nicotine, was similarly effective for reducing urge to vape and craving, even with the low condition, although this is a small sample, of course. We also asked about positive effects, and here you can see that we are starting to see a difference. So in the high nicotine condition, there were self-reported hit and self-reported satisfaction were higher, but statistically they weren't different from the low group. So we can conclude from this that yes, there is evidence of self-titration in experienced e-cigarette users who engaged in compensatory puffing patterns when given a lower nicotine concentration liquid. This included increased puff number, increased puff duration, resulting in a doubling of e-liquid. So as with tobacco smoking, self-titration was not 100% effective. It was good enough to result in a reduction in urge to vape and withdrawal symptoms, but we still see a significantly higher level of blood nicotine in the high compared to the low condition. So as well as the interesting puffing topography data, the other interesting finding was these very high levels of nicotine that can be achieved very quickly in certain situations. So here we used an advanced tank and atomizer system. We used high nicotine concentration e-liquid and of course experienced vapors. And in that situation, for some people, not everyone, but for many people, we see very rapid nicotine delivery. So the implications of this, first of all, self-titration has been described as an attractive feature of cigarette smoking, allowing the user that fingertip control over nicotine delivery. And it appears that vapors, to an extent, are able to self-titrate too, using compensatory puffing techniques. And this might contribute to why vaping is more attractive than, for example, other forms of nicotine delivery where you can't self-titrate to the same extent. The compensatory puffing patterns that we observed resulted in a doubling of the amount of e-liquid used. This may be effective for alleviating urge to smoke and withdrawal symptoms, but of course it comes at a cost. If you're doubling the amount of e-liquid, not only a financial cost, but possibly also a health cost as well. So any exposure to potential toxicants or carcinogens in the vapor will be increased if somebody is switching to a lower nicotine concentration e-liquid and they're doubling their puffing. And my colleagues, Catherine Kimber and Leon Kostmeider, have actually got a poster on this. So they've replicated these puffing patterns that we observed in the lab under the high and the low nicotine conditions and looked at carbinol exposure. So I point you to their poster, if Leon bought it, did you? No. Which will be out there later on today. Now, of course, we know that exposure to toxicants is going to be far less than to tobacco cigarettes. But of course, we want vaping to be as safe as possible. So this may include advising people to use a higher rather than a lower nicotine concentration in their e-liquid. So, limiting nicotine concentrations in e-liquid, other than not even being particularly evidence-based, suggests to us that it's not going to really improve, it's not going to offer any health benefits, certainly, and if anything, at very worst, it might even have adverse health effects. And then finally, the blood nicotine levels that we saw. I mean, I personally think these rapid and high levels of nicotine delivery are a good thing. Many smokers still report that for them, vaping is not a satisfying alternative to smoking. So if we can achieve blood nicotine levels that are more similar to cigarette smoking, that might actually help to improve smoking cessation rates. Others, of course, raise concern that with these high levels that we're seeing, this might prolong nicotine dependence. Whether that is an issue or not, people have different opinions about. So I just want to finish by acknowledging my colleagues and co-authors, Catherine, Olivia, Mira and Colin. Thanks to Sarah for useful discussions about this study, and then to our phlebotomists and laboratory technicians. Thanks.
Yes, so that was Lynn Dawkins, and I've spoken to Lynn quite a lot about this, and I think this is it's pretty important actually, because what it's saying is, and we'll come back to the pleasure principle. It's kind of, why do people smoke? And people smoke because it gives them pleasure. Now this is something that the likes of Fresh North East and Ash and all of the pharmaceutical type ads you see for NRT, they're not allowed to acknowledge that people get enjoyment out of smoking.
It's ridiculous.
Of course it's ridiculous. It's stupidity. I had come up with a simile, and I'd better not use it because the simile I'd had, pardon me, was to do with sperm donation banks. Nobody's going to tell me that that's not an enjoyable pastime and getting paid for it, because it is. Right? But they're denying. They would deny that the same way that they deny that people get enjoyment out of smoking. And as we keep on saying, and as more and more people are now jumping onto the bandwagon, the pleasure principle overrides absolutely everything. If you've got something you enjoy more than what you were doing, you're going to keep on doing the thing that you enjoy.
Exactly.
Now, during the course of that, Matt and I were having a little bit of a natter, were we not, Matt?
We were, yes.
And we were both saying that vaping makes us happy, pleasure principle, and we're happy when we're vaping.
Mm-hmm.
And this was about the self-titration thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because tell everybody what you said.
Well, I asked you the question of, because I must have missed it, what the criteria for a successful self-titration was.
Happiness.
Yeah. So you replied, when you don't desire to have a vape.
Yes.
Well, I desire to have a vape because it gives me pleasure.
Yes.
I don't vape because I have to.
No.
I will sit at work all day long. I will have a vape before I go into work, which is about 7:30 in the morning. 12 o'clock, I'll go out for another vape, and then I'll have another vape when I go home at about 4 o'clock, which tells me I'm not craving it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
But when I'm at home, I rarely let the thing go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find it enjoyable, relaxing. I can sit there, watch telly, sit on the computer, do whatever. So that's why I can't get my head around the whole concept of self-titration.
I think it's more to do with this whole notion of scientists needing to be scientific, and they're trying to. They're actually outside of e-cigs. They're trying to find out what it is that makes you happy. There was a study published a wee while ago.
You see,
remember?
I think you can be overexposed to that sort of thing. I mean, you know, are the run-of-the-mill vapors, and even those who have a casual interest in the politics of it, really interested in that?
Well, they're probably not. But the people who would rule us want evidence. Apparently now, medicine and public health has to be evidence-based. So we're now in a situation where during the course of the TPD shenanigans, of which Sav and I were very much a part, they came up with the notion that nicotine's damaging. It's not, but they came up with that notion. And they used Farsalinos' data against Farsalinos and us. They completely misinterpreted it and said that that was science. In fact, it was anti-science. We now have the likes of Lynn, the likes of Konstantinos, and lots of other people now doing research to produce the science that we can take and put in front of these arseholes and say, look, it's here. And if you don't understand the words, she stood on her hind legs and talked about it and told you about it. And really, you don't want us to let Konstantinos get on his hind legs and talk to you about it. You're better off reading it, or we'll explain it, unless you've got 6 hours to spare. And I say that with love, because he can talk. He can talk for the whole of Europe, never mind just England or Greece. Brilliant. I love the fella. The evidence is there. We put that in front of the legislators and say, you're being dicks because you're saying the opposite of this. This is the evidence. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to be implementing legislation and regulation according to. In other words, you've got it wrong. You're being an arsehole. Reverse it. Do it now. And anybody that wants to go and talk to one of their representatives and give them all of this, the representatives, they've got to look at it. And it's as well to know it.
Yes.
But the overriding principle of all of this is the pleasure principle.
Yes, so without doubt.
Without doubt. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And we've got to be able to get researchers to understand the pleasure principle and to be able to relate that to the results that they're bringing up, you know? And we've got to get governments around the world to understand that because of the pleasure principle, harm to their citizens is going to be reduced, and therefore draconian legislation and regulation should be got rid of. And there's another group that's actually picked up on this, and they're not in the e-cig industry, and they're not vapors, and they're nothing to do with e-cigs. This is the advertising industry. And let me just run through this one. That's the one I want. Yeah. This is the Advertising Association, which has made the controversial step of calling on the government to repeal 2 key EU laws which it claims have had a detrimental effect on the business, namely the ban on e-cigarette ads and the need for finance firms to include the small print in the wake of the Brexit win, right? So it's not just vapors. In a letter to the Business Secretary Sajid Javid and Culture, Media and Sports Secretary John Whittingdale, the Advertising Association Chief Executive Tim Lefroy outlined UK advertising's concerns and demands post-referendum. In it, he calls for a deregulatory outlook, including committing the Financial Conduct Authority to roll back mandatory legals and supers and so on and so on and so forth. And let's flash past that because that's finance and not e-cigs. It says any change in the law would need parliamentary approval, as would lifting the ban on e-cigarette advertising, which came into force in May this year as part of the EU Tobacco Products Directive. E-cigarette ads are no longer allowed across TV, radio, print, except for trade publications and online display, although they are permitted in cinema, out of home, point of sale and sales promotions. Rather less controversially, Lefroy also calls for continued advertising self-regulation, so on and so on and so forth. So that's the advertising industry itself is calling on the government to reverse the ludicrous ban which prevents people from finding out more about e-cigs and how the pleasure principle can be applied. And I think I think the pleasure principle is probably the most important principle there is about e-cigs. I've said it, and anybody that knows me will confirm this. I've said it from day one. You get all of the joys and none of the death. All of the joys. I'm even being quoted now.
I think really it's an excellent slogan, isn't it? The pleasure principle.
Yes.
Which has really just come to the fore, hasn't it?
Yes.
As a kind of slogan.
Yes. And I've got no idea where it came from. Sav, do you know?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
No idea who coined the phrase. Not even slightly. And that all the joys, none of the death. I remember having a conversation with one of the head guys at Fresh North East who was talking about how can we get some kind of stuff on the telly, advertisements or whatever, that would get people to understand that e-cigs are a good thing. And I said, it's dead simple. Stand a Vader there and go, take a big talk, blow a semi-cloud out, and then just say, e-cigs, all the joys of smoking, with none of the death. And he said, can't do that. I said, why not? He says, that's promoting smoking. I said, how the hell is it promoting smoking? When you're saying e-cigs, all the joys of smoking, none of the death. How is, well, because that acknowledges that there is joy in smoking. Do you know what my reply to that was?
I can imagine.
Fuckwit. That was what I said.
Yeah.
You fuckwit. He says, I didn't come up with it. I said, well, no, but you're repeating it. That makes you as big a fuckwit as the fuckwit that came up with that piece of fuckwittery in the fucking first place.
You see, the nanny state, deeply held prejudices.
Yes.
How do
you know you were sliding off the side of the camera. Turn around a bit.
Uh-huh.
Aye, you slid off the side.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes. 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 Apparently Wraith Tech has to blow semis at work. It's amazing what you've got to do for a wage these days, isn't it? And on that bombshell, I think we probably ought to say good night. Say good night, Sam.
Oh, should we remind the dear audience that we're going to be a bit early on Monday?
Oh, God, yes. Thank you. Right, yes. On Monday, it is planned that at 7 o'clock in the House of Lords, a debate, the regret motions, will be started. On Monday. This is Martin Callahan's one, and I suspect that the other two will get rolled in. It's going to be a massive debate on e-cigs in the House of Lords, starting at 7 o'clock. So, our plan is that Monday night show is going to come forward by a couple of hours. And somewhere after 6:30, not before, somewhere after 6:30, we'll start the stream going, and we will rebroadcast the House of Lords debate out on our channel, because we can. So we'll have chat open, and we'll be able to have comments coming in from people in the studio. I'm assuming as many of the team as possible will be around for that, and we'll do it that way. And then when it's all finished, we said, right, we'll have half an hour's kind of round up and wrap up and what have you. It's scheduled to finish at 9, so we'll do 9 till 9:30 like a normal show, talking about what we've just seen. So that's what's going to happen on Monday night. Have I got that right, Matt?
Yes, you got it exactly right. Yep.
Good, because that's what we're going to try and do. We're gonna bring you that and do it all together. Come together as a community. The swear filters will be taken off. I think. I'm looking for Sav. She's not nodding. She's not.
Most of them will be taken off.
Most of the swear filters will be taken off. Right. So that'll be on Monday night. That's what's going to be happening. What's going to be happening next Thursday night? I haven't got a clue. Because frankly, I didn't have a clue what I was going to do tonight. But I will say that we've actually gone through the show, and there's one piece of material I didn't use. I'm quite pleased about that. I will say, go to asita.org.uk and have a read of The Defence of the Indefensible, the 20 milligram per millilitre limit imposed by the TPD can only cost lives, because that was where I was going to do the seamless link into from Lynn Dawkins. But that one's gone out of the window because time has caught up with us. I wasn't expecting it to. I thought we'd be finishing the show about 8:45.
Yes, you did, aye.
I said we'd, yes. So there you go. So thank you so much for sticking with us for so long. So from Matt, it's good night.
Good night.
From Sav.
Good night.
From Keith. Hang on, Keith. There you are.
Good night.
And from me. No, that's not me. That's me. Oh, do that. Oh, can I please get a control surface that does what I want it to do, even if I press the wrong button, please? Jesus, I must be getting old, Keith.
No comment.
I'll never catch you up.
Thanks very. No, you won't. No, that's
Yes.
true.
So the next time I see you, I'll be a year older.
Yes.
I will. 19. Upside down.
Upside down.
Aye. I'd still prefer to be 69. Can you imagine having a 69 every day of the... Oh, that would be lovely.
The mind boggles.
The tongue would be tired.
God.
But, you know, like Cheryl Cole, I'm worth it. Right. Yes, from all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, comment, all of that kind of stuff on YouTube. And until we see you next time, vape on, vape hard. And don't let the bastards grind you down. Celebrate the vape. See you later.
Good night.
Bye-bye.